Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Chaz Wilson. Chaz, hello, sir.
How are you?
Good. We're choreographing early wins in the year. So I'm excited to. What's that?
It's so important.
It's so important. I loved that tidbit from the last episode. That was so good because I've never thought of that. Like, I think at the beginning of the year, I'm often refreshed and I'm like ready to sink my teeth into some real big project. And then like by February, March, I'm exhausted and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
So I love that. It's such a good tip. You guys need to go back and listen to that last episode.
Yeah. I talked about choreographing wins. And I think there's so many things when I look at successful people, I'm just a student of success because it leaves clues and I want to, shorten my path to success. So guys, if you're listening, one of the things that I see, and I talked about choreographing wins, and I think choreographing things is really, really important. That's probably one of the top, choreograph your wins. Number two, the next C is consistency. When I see successful people that are consistent in their efforts, they're consistent in the way they're disciplined in their habits, right? So if you want to change tomorrow, you actually change today. It really sounds like, oh, that's a cool little saying. But I actually recently heard John Maxwell say that, and it really struck me. He said, that you want to change tomorrow, change the habit you're doing today. And so, I know you and I have talked about this. From a personal health standpoint, I know you had I don't know if you still have a coach, but you had a coach for a while and that was helping. Likewise, same for me. And it's really helped me. But one of the biggest things wasn't the big changes. It was the accountability to be consistent in my efforts.
Yep.
Right. And how fast that changed. Now I'm in a place where the change came fast. Now I have to be consistent in that effort. Right. On a continuous basis.
So I love the phrase consistency compounds results is like super juicy. That just gets me excited because I think, when I think of results and I think of compounding, I'm like, I think that's what we're all after, but consistency is that sneaky little word at the front of that whole thing. That's like, I think most people, if they're honest, would say they struggle with consistency. So what are some things that help us get consistency? You said coaching or accountability.
Yeah. So let me take one step back before I get to that, because I want to give the visual for everyone listening. You've probably all heard the whole, and I wish I'd actually thought of this ahead of time. I would have had the number, but you've heard the compounding interest, right? You take a penny,
right.
Double it every day in the compounding, but you turn around 30 days later, and I don't remember exact number what it is.
It's over $1 million.
It's over $1 million, right? It's massive. The thing is though, is during the process, you're not necessarily seeing those results until it starts to really have that momentum in that compounding place.
Right.
And that's how it is for each of us in our businesses, is like, you can't see the compounding result. You just know if you put in the consistent effort, the compounding result shows up.
Yeah.
And so number one, it's getting a coach or mentor that shows up in your life on a consistent basis as well. Like my coaching program, I have a timeline to it. You have to commit for a certain period of time because I'm committing.
Yep.
Now, I have a rule though, if people back out of their deal, like call me up and say, I want to cancel. I don't want to do it. Right. I have a rule. You're never allowed back in ever because there's a consistency to this. I don't want people who are in coaching and out of coaching. And I think I made a strong decision in my life about 7 years ago. I had coaches on and off, and I realized, I looked at the results and I said, this is a clue. Every time I've had a coach or a mentor, I've been doing well. And I know you've had coaches and mentors and still do. And so it's like an important process. So I just committed to that. So number one, coaches and mentors. And number two is the thoughts are also consistent because that's where it all starts. And so what am I doing to have consistent thoughts? Who am I listening to? So Chris, I shared this on a previous episode. People could go back and listen, but I changed my routine at the gym. When I have my phone here, I no longer listen to music at the gym. I have a few people I go listen to. Sometimes this sounds funny to some people. I go listen to the podcast you and I do, these episodes. I go back and listen to them.
Yep.
And I go,
yep,
that was pretty smart that day Chris said that, or I said that. Right?
Right. Yeah. No, that's so good. I think you're right. Well, I mean, listen, we've said this before. Teaching is the highest form of learning. I think what we're doing here in this podcast is we're teaching stuff, success principles really. And I think when you go back and listen to your own teachings, you just continue to reiterate your own learning. Like you're solidifying the lesson for you. through what you have taught. And I do the same thing.
You're so right. Let me tie that into the consistency piece of the messaging, because this would be another one. As a teacher, and all of us as business owners are teachers, we need to teach others behind us who are coming up in the industry. We need to teach our clients, our prospective clients, our employees, whatever we have, we're constantly teaching. And so one of the things in my consistent messaging of thoughts in the morning, I heard this message recently from another person, said that often as leaders, we get tired of saying the same thing. So to us, the message gets tired. To us, the daily phone calls get tiring. To us, sending those 5 thank you notes every day gets tiring. And so we stop the consistent things that got us where we are. And so one of the reminders for me is I need to be consistent in my messaging, continuing the same message. Even though I've said it 8 times a day, it might be the first time you heard it. And so for those of you who have a story of your business, be consistent in telling your story, even though it gets tiring for you.
Yeah. And on top of that, it might be the 10th time I've heard you say it, but every time you say it, it still impacts me, because it's just like reading a book. You read it one time. I mean, you retain a little bit of it, but I mean, if you go to any of the big personalities that are out there, it could be a Grant Cardone, it could be a Gary Vaynerchuk, it could be a John Maxwell. Like if you actually are students of what they say, it's the same thing all the time.
All the time.
All the time. They might say it inside a different story. There was some different spark that gave me a thought today, but it always comes back to the same thing.
Yeah, so powerful. But see, that's also consistency. Yeah. And then because of that, that's compounded their results, right? Because they become known as that consistent message, and that's what they become for. So I think consistency also has to go with your calendar. And so you got to look at your calendar, and are the activities you're doing consistent? Are they on your calendar? So I have my workouts on my calendar, and I'm consistent about that 5 days a week. I have my coaching calls that I get with my coach and those who I coach. I'm consistent about the episodes of the podcast I listen to. Like, it just compounds my results. And so guys, if you're listening to this, you might be tired of a specific activity, but if it got you where you are, you need to keep doing it consistent. I see this in Master Networks, Chris, all the time.
Yep.
People get tired. They go, oh my gosh, I got to play the training tidbit every week. Could we take a week off of the training tidbit? And I'm like, no, because that is the value of what people want when they're here. Just because you're tired doesn't mean everyone else is. So stay consistent in the process.
Yep. So good, man. I remember years ago, Gary Keller would say, like, success is boring.
Yeah.
Like you just keep showing up and doing the same thing, but that's actually sometimes one of the things that separates those who actually compound their results versus those that don't. Is the ones that don't are off chasing shiny objects, and the ones that do are just plodding along. They're just, same thing.
Yeah. My best leaders in my organizations are the ones who are consistent. And that is simply it. Somebody asks me all the time, how do I become the best chapter president or the best regional partner? I'm like,
I know.
Number 1, act like it. Number 2, be consistent. Yeah.
It's not sexy, but it's what works. That's so good. I love it. All right. Well, this is good stuff. If people want to get some coaching and mentoring from you in order to be consistent and compound their results, where can they go?
Sure. You can go to chazwilson.com, CHASWILSON.com. You can check out stuff on my website, or again, go to my Instagram or YouTube and subscribe so you get notified every time we post these and all the other training videos I put out of free content.
So good. Awesome. Chaz, thanks for your episode. Thanks for your episode, and thanks for your wisdom. Thanks for sharing. We'll catch you in the next episode. See you later.
Be well.